So Tracy, it just indicated that the webinar is being live streamed.
Yes, we're getting started now.
I saw the hands in the air and I was like, this is a good sign.
Morning, Heidi.
Good morning. I want you all to imagine that I'm having my best hair day ever and I'm actually glowing.
I see you in fuzzy pajamas. I didn't see that. See, either way, she didn't, so we should be okay. All right, good morning. Today is Thursday, July 6th, 2023. Calling to order the Civil Service Commission meeting. We have Commissioner Dennis Roden here and myself, Leo Selden. We have Timothy Borchardt from the police department. Our staff is Tracy Friedman and Heidi Wachter is with us on Zoom. First order of business is the approval of minutes from the May 2nd meeting, 2023. Their motion to approve. Okay, I will second that motion. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? All right. The second approval of minutes is from the May 26th meeting, a special meeting that we called. Is there a motion to approve these minutes? I will second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Approvals passed. Now we call for Heidi Wachter to talk about our PSS response on the disqualification memos that we got last week.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to address you, and at the risk of going on a bit, I'd like to make sure that I cover all the bases on this. So as I understand the question, it has to do with the documentation that ends up coming to the Civil Service Board, what does and doesn't come. The city is subject to 3 different pieces of state law in this area. One is the Public Records Act, which I think people are really familiar with. One is the state retention laws. And more recently, there is now the Washington State Office of Privacy and Data Protection. So these laws apply to all documents held or used by the city. So if we have them or use them, they're going to be subject to those laws, whether or not we give the documents to you. Under PRA, if it's requested and we have it, the presumption is to disclose. With regard to retention, the state tells us how long we have to keep documents, and the Office of Privacy and Data Protection indicates that if it's a protected document or contains protected information, we're obligated to protect it. So what that brings together is this balance that we're trying to strike between the information we have to gather and document in order to choose the best candidates for the job, and information that you guys need in order to make the best decision, and then balance that against transparency of the process. And my recommendation has been to, in those instances where you feel like more is needed, to use your executive session and have a conversation with the police people who have been doing the background rather than conveying the documents. Now, I started out by saying it really doesn't matter where the document is, we're subject to the same laws. That is true. However, if you are handing off those documents in an open public meeting, it's harder for us to then try and defend that we've been A, protecting the privacy in accordance with privacy laws, and B, that we could then exercise exemptions under the Public Records Act. So that's the reason that I would prefer that the full reports not go out either in the context of the open meeting or in advance of the meeting by way of email. I would be happy to answer any questions, including if this doesn't quite get to the question you were hoping I was going to opine on.
Well, that one of my questions was, I get emails, notices of the meeting, notices of disqualifications. And then I need to handle those emails in a certain way so that they're protected. I usually handle them by once the meeting is done, I delete them, so I'm not responsible for them. But I didn't know if that was proper or improper as a commissioner.
So what I would suggest to you, and I believe this to be the case, is that you have a person assigned in the form of Tracy, and you have the good fortune of having a highly qualified and competent person who is going to maintain all of the official documents of the meetings. To the degree that you have a personal document related to the meetings, my suggestion would be, if you want it to be part of the official documentation, you would deal with Tracy. If you want it to be your personal notes, then you would be able to delete it. So for example, if I get an email and I review it and I don't add any language to it, I don't respond to anyone, I don't necessarily have to keep that anywhere because that came out officially from the Civil Service Board, right? On the other hand, if I write something to Tracy that says, by the way, I am going to want this extra information presented at the meeting, and you send that to Tracy, Tracy will need to decide whether or not that's part of her official documentation for the meeting. But again, that's not necessarily your decision. So you might want to go ahead and do with it as you will. I don't see a situation where an individual board member should be responsible for the official documents of the board. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yes.
And Tracy, is there any muttering from Tracy under her breath since I basically made her the point person there?
No, of course I'm repeating them, so according to our representation agreement. So.
I do say that we scale, I actually make a copy of the candidate disqualification notes, so I like that. Read it in front of you, but then after the meetings, I delete everything, shred that, and I delete the emails that have the candidate disqualification. There's a thing by that. You mentioned 4 or 5 that's so that's what I do. That was a good question. I had noticed these last two candidate disqualification votes. The summary is a little more descriptive than they were previously. And that was my concern previously, because there was a dearth of information, you know, concerning why the person was disqualified. There's more information there. You know, as you indicate, you can always go into executive session, or if I really wanted to, attorney or creator, and have a discussion. As I had previously.
Yes.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing I want to be really clear about, because I think Board Member Roden, you really outlined the boundaries there pretty nicely, which is that you need a certain amount of information in order to do your job. And the city is obviously not wanting to air someone's, for lack of a better word, less high points of their life, if you will. And so it's in between those two things that you're navigating. And you're right, that executive session is an appropriate tool for getting that kind of information so that it's not necessarily out there for everyone to just sort of paw through. But anyway, that's what I have, unless there are further questions.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
By the way, as we come to the next business, I'm glad you nipped us off because.
They should be better as they're on the list. Yeah.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is cancellation of entry level eligibility. We have
Changes the version.
just one, and that's Robert Harlan. there a motion to,
And then there, all right. You have a single. I realize there are different categories. Lateral entry. Court confined.
okay,
Is it all right? You read the names and the type of entry that there is, and we take a look tomorrow.
Heidi, did you hear that?
I did not catch that. I was listening, but it's, Commissioner Roden is a little bit garbled.
Yes, it was whether we can make a blanket cancellation for different ones, naming their name and the position.
I will tell you, one of the pieces that I wasn't, didn't emphasize sufficiently was the transparency piece. You are going to want to cite some reason for why they're being disqualified. You don't need to go into extreme detail. It can be based on the recommendation of the police department, or a general statement about them, or something of that nature, or suggest that you've reviewed documentation if you have in fact reviewed it. I think it's probably a lesser practice if you just have a list of names and just give them a thumbs down without something more.
Okay, so we'll keep them separate.
I think that what I have in mind is the idea that if some one of those people came back and challenged your process, it would be more appropriate to say that each one received civil service consideration. The concept of civil service board is that objective review.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to return to the cancellation of entry level eligibility for Robert Carlin. Do I have a motion? I'll second that. Is there any discussion? So, all in favor? Aye. For the lateral eligibility cancellation, we are going to discuss, we have two candidates, Andrew Lout and Joshua Conrad. Do I have a motion to cancel their eligibility? I will second that. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Then we have the cancellation of court compliance eligibility. For court compliance officer, we have two cancellations. Here's the word. We have Taika McLaurin Bowie and Jeffrey Rebellion. Is there a motion to cancel their? I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, now we're gonna certify the sergeant's eligibility list. There are 6 names on the eligibility list.
Graphics for that list is the sergeant's list, 6 male, 2 Asian, 3 white, 1 Hispanic.
Is there a motion to certify the sergeant's eligible? Right, I will second that. Any discussion? No vacancies.
No, not. Somebody is retiring.
Right, all in favor, to approve this liability list? Aye. All right. And then the entry level police officer process change. Yes, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So we, Lieutenant Fire and myself, with the approval of Chief Smith, have elected to, or would like to, change the process from in-house to going with public safety testing. The reason behind that is because over the last 5 testing cycles, I guess, for us, and we tested quarterly, we slowly saw a decline in candidates all the way down to the last test where we had 14 show up. And only like something. When I, the first process I was involved in, we had like 75, 80 and 40 showed up, and it was just like gradual decline. Most of the agencies around here, if not a high percentage of them, all use public safety testing. It's very convenient for candidates to be able to take one test and have the results spread out to all the agencies that they would like to apply to. For us, it's a lot easier logistically, where we don't have to set up a place to conduct the test. We don't have to bring in officers on at the time to be able to conduct this ability test, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a lot easier for us just to go to public safety. Grab the list of candidates that have put us down as things they would like to work, and then for that, so just kind of a. And it was successful for us before. We just, the reason we switched prior was because we thought we'd be able to get a more personalized approach. Initially. Especially.
How many people did public safety testing? How many goes through that? Where's it held?
So it's regionally, they have testing sites in Olympia, Auburn, Willa, Shelton. It's virtually, they do it virtually. So and they test through those different locations. There's multiple test kits, and I can't know a number, but there is definitely more. And then they test on. The other advantage to it is we signed up for the ability to have Deisha Officer Koppel, our recruiting coordinator, recruiting officer. She can actually go to the testing site when she chooses and can walk around, meet candidates, ask them if they applied with us or they put us down as one of their parts they like the results to go to. And if they didn't, she can sign them up on a piece of paper, give it to public safety testing, and they get automatically added to have us added to their list of agencies they like to work for. And then we would cover the cost, which is like it's good to lead government lead officer Cockle. So yes, she is very personable. She will get on party. So sure. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, the next one. Yeah, sure.
You see any disadvantages?
I don't. So actually, when I started testing back in the 80s, a long time ago, they obviously testing just started. And it was probably, there was more agencies that did their own testing than that. So I don't have a lot of experience with them, but Lieutenant Frederick says that it's great. They always got new candidates coming over. We just wanted to try to get that personalization for those candidates, get that first meet and greet, I guess you could call it. I don't foresee any disadvantages. Actually, I think there's just way more advantages because there's way more testing opportunities for candidates. And then you can get a system with that. I don't know the exact cost. It's, I'd have to look. I think it's in the thousands, yeah, a year. It depends on what package you buy. You can get this package where you can get personalization of videos and or you can just get standard one. But we did upgrade a little bit to allow most of them to get a little time.
So, as I understand it, then they do the basic qualification and the physical. Yes, yeah, no, they give you the list, but what do you then?
So from the testing site that each student will be attending, that will be written and their PhD. And once they say they want to apply to us, from my understanding, we'll have a dashboard that will be able to see their name and that site will push them to Yoga. It'll have some sort of link, pushes them to Yoga, where they'll be able to fill out our application and then we'll be able to start with this at that process.
And they'll be graded just like we do now with the reference. And then they get put in order and then they get asked for oral correct reviews.
That application.
Yeah, we just have to decide how frequent. Those. And what'll happen is my understanding is since it's all the same test, weighted equally, they can just slide right into the list, right? So if you have a list of 25 and there's 15 left and you bring 10 over, they would just slide into the list, but have a different expiration date.
Yes. Yeah, a rolling list similar to how we do now.
I'm only concerned it's not. If an individual just wants to. So it's the first department that hired you. So you get that person name, we can. And go through the process and all that. It's just.
Happens when I do big tech, that's why, yeah, I'm like, that's what we experience already.
And a lot of it is one of those departments are with public safety testing. Yeah, we do a test, the door only goes a month and a half later. And then we get the list back and get certified by that, so because they're already meeting with the background. Wherever, you know, it's about speed. Yeah. That's why we're in the past, we were successful with hiring the 8 that we hired at one round and the 3 later, whatever, because we have. It's, we have somebody on my duty that's working on Alicia's gonna start doing some backgrounds. I do backgrounds, it's better than backgrounds. One of the full-time background guys, is the fact that he is enrolled in sergeant's list. So, but he still will have the ability to do backgrounds. So it's kind of I kind of spread them around and wherever who's free has most free time is where I send them. So it's. We're trying our best. It's competitive, it's super competitive.
Right. I have no more questions. I just would like an update.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, is there a motion to approve the entry level police officer process? Nice, second, and discussion. All right, all in favor? All right, Tracy.
Okay, so return super quick, 2 things. One is, you got the Police Department workforce and graphics. Do you have any questions regarding that? Nope. Numbers remain the same, yes, the ones holding pattern. Okay, so any other thing was the court compliance officer update. Just an update that we have 4 candidates that apply, and we are looking to perhaps, if all goes well, one candidate filtered out of that process, and it was in the polygraph background.
He's up for his second.
Yeah, because we had 4 on the list, we just qualified 2. Okay, so the last. Yeah.
One.
This is that.
Yeah. Hiring or walks.
I haven't heard any rumblings about changing what we have, which is going to happen for entry level. Laterals, we have 2,000 or 2,500. They get 160 hours a week, so they have 80 hours of higher, 80 hours. of school information, Which works. I mean, it's hard because some of these agencies are all $35,000. Yeah, so, you know, I have not, I don't know if it's been addressed, you know, we should, most probably has not. Mentioning to me or ask about. Stop would be, certainly can be brought up. We all know what Chiefs are on this philosophy on Midwest. Northwest, which I agree, times have changed a little bit. I'm not necessarily for or against it. Yes. You know, like our last hire, he didn't care about bonus. He said, I just wanted to work for Lakewood because of the reputation. I'm not going to go less. He could have, he worked for Pierce County Jail. He could have went to the road for Pierce County and got a, whatever their signing on this is, and chose to come work for us. So, yeah, good question. Get your brain about that. We'll let you know.
When I was on the interview panel, I remember that there was a comment that laterals like to come over because we have a retirement plan in this department.
No, ours is the same, and we're still on the left to retirement system. We don't have any, we do have, we just had a Viva approved in our last contract, which is new for us. It's a voluntary employee benefit, assistance or something like that. So basically, it's a medical, it's a way to tax defer your money, and be able to use it down where the retirement tax free. So you never get taxed on the money. The city puts a certain amount of money in a Viva account for us every month, and then when we retire, we do it. So that's attractive, but that's the only thing extra that we have as far as retirement goes. There are some agencies that do have medical retirement or a form of it. Like Tacoma has it. It's a Viva. They just get a lot of money for the forms. Like retirement of those. And then does the same thing. It's just they all the same, but it does. With a FIBA, you can actually pay your medical premiums for the FIBA.
Oh.
So, and we have an HSA account for the city, but you can't use that.
Comments or questions?
For New York. Yes, yes, it's gonna change right now. Where which that was. And it's some percent. Absolutely. That I know. Yeah, so that. It's what it is, it's to look at the process. See how that is.
Yeah, it's supposed to go out in the.
No more questions, okay, well, looks like we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Heidi, for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for accommodating me, you guys. I really appreciate it. I'll try and show up live next time.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
You know, I think, actually,
Let me,
we should do that. It's, you know, if she-
I'll just have them